Room 12 was the quietest place in the entire intensive care unit. The monitors beeped in steady rhythm, marking the heartbeat of a man who had been lying motionless for 2 long weeks. Jack Montgomery, owner of a vast construction empire and one of the wealthiest men in the city, looked as if he were in a coma. His eyes were closed, his breathing calm and deep, but the truth was different. Jack had regained consciousness days ago. He could hear. He could understand. And he had chosen silence. At precisely 8 o'clock in the evening, Emma began her night shift. She adjusted her crisp white coat over her blue uniform and, with a practiced motion, placed her stethoscope around her neck. Her chestnut hair was tied neatly back, though her tired eyes betrayed the weight of a long day. Her very first stop was always room 12. Something about this particular patient drew her in. Perhaps it was the vulnerability that contrasted so sharply with the ruthless image described in newspapers, the steel magnate Montgomery. But Emma didn't see a ruthless man. She saw someone who needed care. She entered softly, switched on the dim light and whispered, "Good evening, Mr. Montgomery. The weather's beautiful tonight. There's a full moon outside." Jack recognized her footsteps. He inhaled the faint floral fragrance of her perfume. He knew that if he wished, he could open his eyes right now. But he didn't. Doctors had declared his state unexplained coma after surgery. Yet by the 3rd day, Jack had already awakened inside. He simply chose not to reveal it. His empire was in crisis. His phone never stopped ringing. Everyone wanted decisions, answers, money. This quiet paralysis gave him something he hadn't had in years: time to think. And to observe who genuinely cared for him, and who only cared for his fortune. Emma checked the monitor, recorded the numbers, and adjusted the 4-line. Then she sat down beside him. "You know, your deputy came by today," she said gently. He looked worried. Or maybe nervous. He was on the phone talking about stocks and deals. Jack smirked inwardly. Of course Victor is nervous. He's probably already forging documents while I'm not there to stop him. Emma continued. "Your sister visited too. She brought those lilies." She nodded toward a vase of white flowers. "She seems to be the only one who truly cares. The rest, well, they worry more about your money than about you." She sighed and began to measure his blood pressure, her touch so gentle that Jack felt the warmth of her fingers through the thin hospital gown. "You know what's strange, Mr. Montgomery?" she whispered. "I always imagined you differently. The news calls you cold and calculating. But when they brought you here, they found an old photograph in your pocket. A little girl and a man by the ocean. It's worn, as if you've carried it for years. People don't keep things like that unless they have a heart." Jack's soul tightened. That photograph was the only reminder of his daughter, gone 10 years ago. No one knew. Not about his failed marriage. Not about the tragedy he buried beneath his business armor. Day after day Emma came. She spoke to him about the weather, about small hospital stories, sometimes reading aloud from a book. Jack began to wait for those moments. He could have opened his eyes at any time. But something held him back. Perhaps it was fear of returning to a world where conversations were never this simple, this sincere. One evening Emma entered later than usual. She looked troubled as she sank into the chair beside him. "Today wasn't the best day," she admitted quietly. "I've been told I'm being transferred to another department. Your deputy insisted. He wants only staff with a certain qualification to handle your care." She hesitated, then added softly, "I'll miss our talks." Strange thing to say to a man in a coma, I know. But with you I feel like myself. Not just a nurse, but a person with thoughts and feelings. Emma gently took his hand. "My contract ends in a month. I plan to open a small clinic for low-income families. I saved some money, but the bank refused me a loan. Now I may need to move to another city for work." Her voice broke. A single tear fell onto Jack's hand. "Forgive me for this weakness," she whispered, wiping her face. "Sometimes it feels like the world is too cruel to those who only want to help others. But I won't give up. And you mustn't either. Promise me you'll come back." Something shifted inside Jack. Slowly, painfully, he opened his eyes. The room swam before him, but he could clearly see Emma's astonishment. "Mr. Montgomery," she gasped. "You're awake. I need to call the doctor." "Wait." His voice was hoarse, rough from disuse. "How long have I been like this?" 2 weeks and 3 days, she answered, still in disbelief. He gathered his strength. "How much do you need for your clinic?" Emma froze. You heard me?" Jack gave the slightest nod. "Every word." In these 2 weeks, I've learned more about you than about people I've worked with for years. Her cheeks flushed. I shouldn't have. Don't apologize, he interrupted. Your honesty brought me back. He tried to sit up, but Emma gently pressed him down. You can't move yet. I'll get the doctor. Later, Jack insisted. First listen. I'll help with your clinic. And I need someone I can trust to untangle what's happening in my company. She shook her head quickly. You don't owe me anything. Not because I shared my dreams. I'm not doing it out of gratitude, Jack said softly. These days, I realized something. Money, power, they mean nothing without something real. Outside, dawn began to break. Golden light poured into the room, painting it in warmth. The monitor kept beeping steadily, but now there was a new note in its rhythm. Hope. Now, Jack said with the faintest smile. Call the doctor. I have work to do. The first task. Making sure no one can ever take you away from this place again. Emma smiled back, eyes shining. And in that moment they both knew. This was only the beginning of a story where sincerity would prove stronger than pretense, and where truth would outlast the power of money.